What really happens when an empath finally walks away from a narcissist? Not just emotionally, but spiritually. It's not just a breakup, it's an energetic earthquake. The moment the empath cuts the cord, something powerful shifts in the unseen world. The narcissist begins to lose the energy they once stole, and the empath starts to rise higher than ever before. You'll notice it, the calm after the storm, the peace that feels almost supernatural, the glow that no amount of pain could dim. This isn't revenge, it's spiritual justice. And if you've ever loved deeply, only to be drained, this will open your eyes to what was truly happening behind the scenes. Stay till the end, because what you'll learn might just explain why you were chosen to experience it all, and how your healing becomes your greatest power. And if this message speaks to your soul, don't forget to subscribe or drop a comment saying, "I'm reclaiming my energy," so the universe knows your awakening has begun. When the empath finally disconnects, something invisible but powerful happens. A deep, energetic withdrawal begins. You see, throughout the relationship, the narcissist has been feeding on the empath's light, their compassion, forgiveness, and emotional warmth. The empath's love becomes the narcissist's fuel, the energy that keeps their false self alive. Every time the empath forgives them, listens to them, or tries to understand their pain, they unknowingly charge the narcissist's spiritual battery. But the moment the empath steps back, stops explaining, stops trying to fix, and chooses peace instead of chaos, the entire dynamic collapses. Spiritually, it's like the plug being pulled from the narcissist's life source. Their fake confidence starts to fade. The charm that once drew people in begins to feel forced. Even their control over others weakens because that energy, the light they were never capable of generating on their own, is gone. At first, the narcissist may act unaffected. They may pretend they've moved on, posting pictures, showing off, or even finding a new target quickly. But deep down, their soul starts to panic. The emptiness they've always carried, the one the empath's love once kept hidden, begins to surface. Without that constant flow of emotional energy, the narcissist feels like a person stranded in spiritual darkness, desperately searching for another source of light. Yet no one shines the same way the empath did. The empath's energy was pure, born of sincerity, care, and unconditional love, something the narcissist can't recreate or replace. That's why no matter how many people they chase or how much they try to fill the void, it never feels the same. For the empath, this withdrawal feels painful at first. They've given so much of themselves that detaching feels like losing a part of their identity. But slowly, as the cords of emotional dependency start to break, something miraculous happens. The empath begins to feel lighter. The fog lifts. They start sleeping better, thinking clearer, and feeling emotions that belong only to them. Spiritually, it's the start of rebirth. Their energy, once drained and dimmed, begins to recharge. They might even notice a new glow in their aura, a sense of calm that feels like divine protection. Meanwhile, the narcissist enters what can only be called an energetic drought. Their manipulation loses power. Their words no longer charm, and even their outer world may start to crumble. This is the spiritual law of balance in motion. When you take too much without giving, eventually the universe takes it all back. The empath, who once felt powerless, begins to rise in vibration, while the narcissist, deprived of their light source, descends into their own shadow. This is not punishment, it's simply the truth of energy. What you give with love returns multiplied, and what you take without gratitude eventually fades away. The empath's disconnection isn't cruelty, it's spiritual self-preservation. It's the moment their soul says, "Enough," and chooses to return home to its own light. Once the empath finally breaks free, something profound begins to unfold. A quiet, steady return of their true power. For so long, their light had been entangled in the narcissist's chaos, dimmed by confusion and emotional exhaustion. They had poured love into a void, trying to heal someone who never wanted to heal, trying to find peace where there was only control. But when that bond is broken, the empath begins to feel a shift deep within their spirit. At first, it feels strange, like waking up after a long, draining dream. There's silence, space, and a kind of emptiness that feels both painful and peaceful. Yet beneath that stillness, something divine is stirring. The empath starts to remember who they truly are. Their intuition, once clouded by manipulation and self-doubt, begins to sharpen again. They can feel when something is right or wrong without needing external validation. Their mind grows clearer, their emotions calmer, and their inner world starts to rebuild itself around truth, not illusion. They begin to see how powerful their energy always was, and how the narcissist only survived by tapping into it. This realization doesn't bring anger, it brings awakening, because the empath now understands that their love was never a weakness. It was sacred energy, divine by nature, misused by someone who didn't know how to receive it. As they heal, they start to glow differently. Peace becomes their natural state, not something they have to fight for. Their presence begins to soothe others. Their creativity returns, ideas flow, intuition guides them, and moments of synchronicity start to appear, like gentle signs from the universe whispering, "You're back." The empath may find themselves drawn to things that nurture their soul: nature, prayer, journaling, art, or solitude. These are not escapes anymore. They are doorways to their higher self. Every quiet moment becomes a conversation with the divine. Spiritually, this phase is like stepping into sunlight after years underground. The empath starts manifesting easily because their energy is no longer scattered or drained. Their words hold power, their thoughts attract harmony, and their heart becomes magnetic to genuine love and abundance. The same sensitivity that once made them a target for manipulation now becomes their greatest gift. It's their superpower. Meanwhile, the narcissist, who once seemed in control, fades into the background of their story. The empath no longer feels the pull of their energy because their vibration has risen too high to be touched by it. This isn't revenge, it's evolution. The empath doesn't need to prove anything. Their peace becomes their victory. In this newfound freedom, the empath realizes something beautiful. They were never broken. They were sacred all along, merely hidden beneath the weight of someone else's shadow.
Now, standing fully in their light, they reclaim their divine power, not by fighting darkness, but by remembering they are the light.
When the empath finally walks away, a greater law begins to move, the law of energetic balance. It's not about revenge or punishment. It's the universe simply restoring what was lost and returning what was taken. Every relationship creates an energetic exchange. For so long, the empath gave endlessly, love, forgiveness, time, and emotional labor, without realizing that the scales were tipping too far. The narcissist, in turn, kept taking, draining, and consuming that energy without gratitude or intention to give back. But the universe doesn't allow imbalance to last forever. Once the empath withdraws, that natural law activates and everything begins to shift. For the empath, the change feels like slow healing. Their body, mind, and spirit start to recover from the constant pull of emotional survival. The exhaustion begins to lift, their mind becomes clearer, and their energy, which once felt dull and heavy, starts to flow again. Life begins to mirror this internal restoration. Opportunities appear, good people enter their world, and peace finds them in ways that feel almost miraculous. It's as if the universe is saying, "You have given enough. Now it's time to receive." The same love and compassion they once poured into someone unworthy begin to return to them multiplied, this time through divine alignment and authentic connections. Meanwhile, on the other side, the narcissist starts to experience the opposite. Their charm doesn't work like before. Their manipulation fails. People start pulling away, sensing the emptiness beneath their surface. The relationships they once controlled begin to collapse one by one, and what used to come easily, success, attention, influence, now feels like a constant uphill battle. Spiritually, this is the universe reclaiming the energy they abused. The very power they borrowed from the empath is now being stripped away because it was never truly theirs. Karma doesn't always strike loudly. Sometimes it unfolds quietly, piece by piece. The narcissist might find themselves surrounded by people just like them, those who lie, use, or abandon them, reflecting their own actions back like a spiritual mirror. They might wonder why life suddenly feels heavy, why nothing seems to go right, why peace feels impossible. What they don't realize is that they are now sitting inside the very imbalance they created. Every ounce of energy they drained must now be faced, understood, and balanced. For the empath, this balance brings not just healing, but wisdom. They begin to understand the power of boundaries, the importance of self-love, and the value of protecting their energy. They no longer give out of fear or guilt. They give from overflow, not depletion. And as they rise, their life becomes lighter, because balance is not just restored, it's rewritten. The universe, in its quiet fairness, always returns everything to equilibrium. The empath, once drained and broken, is replenished with divine light. The narcissist, once inflated and untouchable, is humbled by the weight of their own energy. In the end, justice isn't loud, it's energetic. And the balance, once restored, speaks louder than any revenge ever could. When the empath finally walks away, the narcissist's world begins to crumble from within. For years they've lived off borrowed light, feeding on the empath's kindness, patience, and emotional depth. But once that light is gone, the illusion they built around themselves starts to collapse. The charm that once drew people in begins to lose its power. The grand stories, the confidence, the control, all of it begins to feel hollow. This is the moment when the narcissist faces the one thing they've spent their entire life avoiding: the void within themselves. It's not just loneliness, it's a deep spiritual emptiness, a silence so uncomfortable that they'll do anything to escape it. Without the empath's energy to mirror back an image of importance, the narcissist feels invisible. The admiration and attention that once kept their ego alive no longer satisfy them. Spiritually, this is what some call the dark night of the soul, the point where all external illusions fade and only truth remains. But while the empath learns and transforms in her dark night, the narcissist resists it. They refuse to look inward, because facing the void means admitting that their entire persona, the mask they wear to control and impress others, was never real. In this stage, they often become restless, desperate to fill the emptiness with new distractions. They may chase new relationships, seek validation, or try to recreate the connection they lost with the empath, but nothing feels the same. Every attempt to find that emotional high ends in disappointment, because what they truly crave isn't love or attention, it's the energy of the empath's unconditional light. And that energy, once withdrawn, cannot be replaced by imitation or manipulation. Spiritually, this is where karma begins its quiet work. The narcissist starts to experience what they once projected onto others: rejection, confusion, a sense of being unseen. The universe isn't punishing them, it's mirroring back what they've sent out. The same way they drained the empath, life now drains them. The same way they silenced someone else's voice, their own begins to fade in a crowd. This cycle isn't meant to destroy them, it's meant to awaken them. But awakening requires humility, and that's what many narcissists cannot bear. While the empath's journey through pain leads to healing, the narcissist's leads to exposure. Their mask begins to crack in front of others. People see through the charm and start to withdraw. Their relationships become shallow, their influence weakens, and their confidence becomes fragile. Spiritually, it's as if the universe is stripping away everything false so that only truth remains. But without self-awareness, this truth feels like punishment instead of opportunity. The void the narcissist faces is not empty. It's filled with the lessons they've refused to learn. If they ever choose to face it with honesty, it could become the doorway to redemption. But until then, they remain trapped in their own illusion, haunted by the light they once tried to control. When the empath finally steps away, something extraordinary happens. The narcissist's mask, once polished and convincing, begins to crack. For so long they thrived under the glow of the empath's light. That light made them appear more confident, more charming, even more good than they truly were. The empath's kindness became their disguise, a mirror that reflected back an image of someone they were pretending to be. But when that light disappears, the illusion starts to break down. Spiritually, truth has a way of burning away everything false, and when the empath's energy is no longer there to sustain the illusion, the narcissist's mask simply can't hold. At first, the cracks are small. A lie slips through, an inconsistency is noticed, a manipulative pattern becomes obvious. People who once admired the narcissist begin to feel something off, something cold behind the smile. The same charm that used to captivate others starts to lose its power. It's not that the narcissist has changed overnight, it's that without the empath's emotional energy amplifying them, their true frequency begins to show. The emptiness that once hid behind the performance becomes visible, and the facade that once fooled everyone starts to crumble under the weight of its own deception. Spiritually, this is the stage of exposure. The universe removes the masks that no longer serve truth. Those around the narcissist start to awaken. Co-workers, friends, family, even new partners begin to see the patterns the empath once endured in silence. The web of control unravels, and with it, the narcissist's ability to maintain their carefully crafted image. Their energy feels heavier, their words less believable, and their eyes, once confident, start revealing the hollowness within. This moment is deeply uncomfortable for the narcissist. Their entire sense of identity was built on perception, how others saw them, how much admiration they could command. But when the truth begins to shine through, they can no longer manipulate reality as easily. Spiritually, it's like standing in front of a mirror that refuses to lie. The reflection staring back is no longer the grand, powerful version they imagined, but the small, wounded self they've spent years hiding. For most narcissists, this exposure feels unbearable, so they scramble to rebuild the mask, perhaps by blaming others, reinventing themselves, or seeking new admirers who haven't seen the cracks yet. But no matter what they do, the light of truth continues to reveal what lies beneath. For the empath, watching this unfold from a distance can bring both clarity and closure. They finally see what they were truly dealing with, not a powerful soul, but a fragile one, hiding behind an illusion. The narcissist's downfall is not the empath's doing. It's simply what happens when truth enters the room and light is no longer misused. In the spiritual realm, masks can only exist in darkness. Once the light of awareness shines, once authenticity replaces illusion, everything false must fall apart. And so, as the narcissist's mask cracks, the empath's soul shines brighter, no longer shadowed by someone else's performance, but radiant in its own unfiltered truth. When the empath finally breaks free from the narcissist's grip, something powerful happens, not just emotionally, but spiritually. The cords that once tied them to pain, confusion, and constant emotional exhaustion begin to dissolve. These were not ordinary bonds.
They were energetic threads woven through manipulation, guilt, and dependency. But once they're cut, the empath begins to rise, quietly, gracefully, and unshakably. This is the moment when the empath becomes untouchable. It's not because they harden their heart or seek revenge. In fact, it's the opposite. They choose peace. They stop fighting battles that were never theirs to win. They stop trying to explain their worth to people who were committed to misunderstanding them. Spiritually, this shift is monumental. The empath's vibration begins to elevate, lifting them into a frequency that the narcissist cannot reach, a realm of truth, serenity, and divine protection. The narcissist may still try to provoke, manipulate, or pull them back into old patterns, but the empath no longer reacts the same way. The hooks don't land, the words don't wound, and the chaos no longer feels tempting. The energetic cords that once drained them have been burned by awareness, and that awareness becomes their shield. In this new state, the empath feels a profound stillness. Their body relaxes, their mind clears, and their spirit feels lighter than it has in years. It's as if their soul is breathing again. This peace isn't weakness, it's power. The narcissist can no longer feed on their reactions because there are none left to take. Silence becomes the empath's greatest response, and boundaries become their quiet strength. Spiritually, the narcissist now vibrates on a lower frequency, a plane of control, fear, and ego, while the empath has ascended into love, clarity, and truth. The gap between those two worlds grows wider every day, making it impossible for the narcissist to reconnect in the same way. This ascension also transforms how the empath sees the past. The pain that once consumed them now becomes understanding. The wounds that once defined them become wisdom. They realize that everything they went through was a kind of spiritual training, preparing them to embody compassion without being consumed by it. Their empathy is no longer naive or easily exploited. It's guided, conscious, and divinely protected. As they move forward, their energy starts to attract only what matches their new vibration. Genuine connections, soul-aligned opportunities, and calm environments begin to flow naturally into their life. It's as if the universe now recognizes their energy as sacred, because it is. Meanwhile, the narcissist finds themselves unable to reach that light again. They might try to provoke the empath, test their peace, or re-enter their life, but it no longer works. The empath's aura, once open and porous, is now strong and luminous, surrounded by a calm that feels almost supernatural.
When the empath finally walks away, the narcissist experiences a loss that goes far beyond emotional attachment. It's a spiritual withdrawal. Most people think the narcissist simply misses the attention, the validation, or the admiration. But what they truly miss is something much deeper, something they can't quite name, the energy high they once received from the empath. The empath's energy is divine by nature, pure, radiant, and deeply connected to spiritual flow. It carries warmth, empathy, and life. For the narcissist, that energy is intoxicating because it gives them access to a power they do not possess within themselves. And when that connection is suddenly cut off, they begin to feel a spiritual starvation unlike anything they've ever known. At first, the narcissist doesn't recognize what's happening. They may act unaffected, pretending to have moved on, quickly finding someone new to fill the void. They might even appear more confident for a short while, trying to prove they are in control. But beneath the surface, a quiet collapse begins. Their world starts to lose color. The confidence they once projected feels hollow. The conversations that once seemed thrilling now feel dull. They can't focus, can't feel deeply, and can't find satisfaction in anything they do. Spiritually, they are disconnected, like a radio with no signal. The empath's energy once gave them access to emotions they couldn't generate on their own: love, excitement, inspiration, and purpose. Now, all of that has vanished, leaving behind a deep emptiness they can't explain. This emptiness isn't just psychological, it's energetic. The narcissist has been living on borrowed light. Their false self, the grand, confident image they present to the world, was never self-sustaining. It was powered by the empath's belief in them, by the love and energy constantly flowing from that connection. When that power source is gone, the mask begins to flicker. They start to feel exposed, anxious, and restless. Spiritually, it's like being unplugged from a divine circuit. Their energy field, which once seemed magnetic and commanding, becomes unstable. They might experience insomnia, irritability, or an unexplainable sense of dread. Nothing external can soothe it. Not attention, not money, not new admirers. The problem isn't outside, it's within. This stage marks the beginning of the narcissist's spiritual withdrawal. It's similar to an addict being cut off from their supply. The empath's energy was their drug, the thing that made them feel alive. Without it, their inner world becomes unbearable. They feel empty, cold, and disconnected from anything real. They might try to chase that high by jumping from one person to another, seeking another empath to attach to. But it never feels the same. Because the truth is, what they crave isn't the person, it's the energy that person carried. And divine energy can't be stolen forever. The universe eventually intervenes. Spiritually, this withdrawal is the soul's way of calling the narcissist to awaken. The pain they feel isn't just loss, it's an invitation to face their own darkness, the void they've avoided their whole life. But instead of listening, most narcissists resist. They blame, project, and distract themselves, doing anything to avoid silence. Because silence exposes what's missing, the connection to their own soul. This disconnection is their true suffering, not the loss of control, not the rejection, but the confrontation with their spiritual emptiness. During this phase, karma often begins to reveal itself. The same way they once drained others, life now begins to drain them. The validation that once came easily now fades. People start pulling away, sensing something off about their energy.
Their charm no longer works like before, and even their successes feel meaningless. Spiritually, this is the universe's way of teaching them what it feels like to live without divine alignment, without authenticity, empathy, or truth. The withdrawal continues until they are forced to see that their entire false identity was built on energy that never belonged to them. For the narcissist, this can lead to emotional chaos, mood swings, frustration, even rage. But deep down, what they're really feeling is spiritual hunger. They crave the light they once absorbed from the empath, yet they have no idea how to create it for themselves. They might even be haunted by memories of the empath, their kindness, their laughter, their warmth, because subconsciously they remember what it felt like to be connected to real love, even if they didn't know how to receive it. This isn't nostalgia, it's withdrawal. They're missing the vibration of purity that their own soul can't produce in its current state. For the empath, meanwhile, this period marks liberation. As the narcissist spirals through withdrawal, the empath's energy begins to restore itself. Their peace grows stronger. Their aura becomes clearer. The very energy the narcissist once consumed now returns to its rightful owner. This is divine order in action, the universe reclaiming what was misused. The empath rises in vibration, while the narcissist sinks into their shadow, each returning to the frequency that reflects their inner truth. Some narcissists, if they choose awareness, can use this pain as a turning point. Spiritual withdrawal can become the first step toward awakening. The emptiness they feel can drive them to seek something real, not control, not admiration, but genuine connection with themselves and the divine. But this requires humility, and humility is the one thing the narcissistic ego fears the most. So most resist, running from mirror to mirror, searching for another empath to reflect back a light they refuse to find within. In the end, this spiritual withdrawal is both a consequence and a crossroads. The narcissist is left with a choice: continue chasing borrowed energy, or finally face the void and heal. It's a painful, lonely process, but it's also the soul's invitation to rediscover authenticity. Without the empath's light, the narcissist stands in total darkness. Yet, within that darkness lies their only chance for redemption, the moment they decide to stop taking light from others and begin to seek it from within.
When the empath finally frees themselves from the grip of a narcissist, something extraordinary begins to unfold, a transformation that goes far beyond emotional recovery. The pain, the manipulation, the constant giving without return, all of it becomes more than just suffering. It becomes initiation. Spiritually, this is a moment of awakening, a turning point where the empath begins to see the truth of their own journey. For so long, they may have believed their purpose was to fix, heal, or rescue the narcissist, to fill the empty void in another's life with their own light. But the universe has a much higher plan. That pain, that draining of energy, that constant challenge was never meant to keep them small. It was meant to awaken them to their own power, their own purpose, and the unique gifts they carry within. At first, the empath may feel confusion or guilt. They might replay every interaction in their mind, wondering if they could have done more, tried harder, or loved differently. It's easy to feel like a failure, because the old programming tells them their worth is measured by how much they give and how much they save. But slowly, clarity begins to emerge. They start to understand that their role was never to fix someone who could not or would not be healed. Their role was to be the spark that illuminates truth, the mirror that reflects light, and the catalyst for awareness, both for themselves and indirectly for the narcissist. The lesson embedded in their suffering transforms into a kind of wisdom that can never be taken away. It is theirs to carry into the next stage of life, fully conscious, fully awake. As the empath steps into this awareness, their sense of purpose deepens. They begin to recognize that the energy they gave was sacred, that their love was never wasted, and that every moment of pain contributed to their growth. Spiritually, this is profound. The empath begins to align with their higher self, understanding that their sensitivity, their intuition, and their compassion are not weaknesses to be exploited, but gifts to be cherished and cultivated. This awakening ignites a power within them that is quiet but unshakable, the kind of power that does not demand recognition, does not need control, and cannot be diminished by anyone else's actions. With purpose comes direction. The empath starts to see opportunities where before they were only obstacles. Their heightened intuition guides them toward paths that align with their soul, rather than paths dictated by fear, obligation, or the desire to please others. They are drawn to situations, people, and environments that resonate with their true energy. The lessons of the past, the betrayal, the manipulation, the exhaustion, become the foundation upon which they build a life that is not just free from toxicity, but full of meaning. They learn to channel their empathy into creation rather than consumption, into growth rather than rescue. This transformation also manifests in how they interact with the world. The empath begins to set boundaries naturally, not out of fear or resentment, but out of respect for their own energy. They understand that their power is in giving, but only when it flows freely, not when it is demanded or drained. Spiritually, this is liberation. They are no longer tied to the cycles of abuse, the patterns of manipulation, or the endless chase to earn love and approval. They become sovereign over their own energy, fully aware of its value and fully capable of protecting it. The awakening to purpose also brings clarity about relationships. The empath now sees connections through the lens of authenticity. People who drain energy, who demand more than they give, or who manipulate and deceive no longer are able to penetrate their aura. Instead, they attract relationships that are balanced, reciprocal, and nourishing. Their interactions are guided by resonance rather than neediness, and their presence becomes magnetic to those that are aligned with their frequency. This is a radical shift from the past, where energy was constantly depleted and misused. Spiritually, the empath's awakening is akin to stepping into sunlight after years in darkness. The pain of the past becomes a teacher, and every wound becomes a doorway to power. They begin to see that their experience with the narcissist was not a curse, but a necessary part of initiation, a rite of passage that prepares them for a life of wisdom, leadership, and influence. They understand that the people they encounter are mirrors, and that the challenges they face are opportunities for growth, resilience, and the embodiment of their higher self. This awakening often carries creative and spiritual gifts to the surface. The empath may find themselves drawn to healing work, mentorship, or spiritual guidance. They may develop talents that were dormant, from artistic expression to intuitive insight, from teaching to leadership. Every gift becomes a tool for living a life aligned with truth and purpose, a life where their energy is respected, nurtured, and celebrated. They no longer need to seek validation from external sources because they have discovered an internal reservoir of strength, clarity, and divine alignment. Importantly, the empath now understands that their journey is sacred. Their sensitivity, once a vulnerability, is now a superpower. Their compassion, once exploited, is now refined and protected. Their intuition, once clouded, is now sharp and trustworthy. Spiritually, they have ascended beyond the need for approval or control, moving into a space where their light flows freely, unimpeded by those who once sought to dim it. Every experience, every challenge, every heartbreak has led to this awakening, a life lived consciously, intentionally, and in full alignment with their soul. The empath awakens to purpose not because the narcissist failed, but because they succeeded in catalyzing growth. The pain was never pointless. It was the crucible that forged their wisdom, the storm that strengthened their spirit, and the challenge that revealed the depth of their power. In reclaiming their energy, setting boundaries, and stepping into alignment, the empath transforms suffering into purpose, confusion into clarity, and lost energy into divine empowerment. They are no longer a passive participant in life. They are an awakened force, fully conscious, fully sovereign, and fully capable of creating a life that reflects their highest self.
When an empath emerges from the shadow of a narcissist, something extraordinary occurs. Their light begins to shine brighter than ever. For years, the empath's energy may have been drained, their compassion exploited, and their gifts overlooked or undervalued. They were pulled into the whirlwind of manipulation, confusion, and emotional exhaustion, often questioning their worth and wondering if their sensitivity was a weakness. Yet, in surviving that storm, the empath undergoes a profound transformation. Pain becomes the forge for strength. Suffering becomes the soil for wisdom. And every tear shed becomes a reflection of resilience. Spiritually, the empath's light does not merely return to its original state. It emerges stronger, more vibrant, and far more purposeful than before. At the core of this transformation is a fundamental shift in energy and perception. The empath no longer gives blindly. Their heart, once so open that it allowed exploitation, now operates from discernment. They still love deeply, but their love is informed by wisdom and self-respect. They recognize that giving without boundaries is not kindness, but depletion. In reclaiming their energy, they understand the sacredness of their own light. Every act of generosity, every word of comfort, and every gesture of empathy now carries the weight of conscious intention. This shift transforms ordinary interactions into spiritual exchanges that heal, uplift, and inspire. As the empath steps into this newfound power, their intuitive abilities sharpen. They can sense dishonesty and toxicity with clarity, but instead of feeling burdened or controlled by it, they navigate it gracefully. Their sensitivity becomes a tool, a lens through which they perceive the subtle energies of the world. Where they once absorbed the chaos of others, they now radiate calm and stability. This energetic resilience becomes magnetic, drawing authentic connections, opportunities, and environments into their life that honor their frequency. Spiritually, this is liberation. The empath is no longer at the mercy of external energies, but aligned with their own divine source. Emerging from the shadow of the narcissist often ignites a calling. Many empaths find themselves drawn to roles that allow them to share their wisdom, insight, and healing gifts. Some become counselors, mentors, or spiritual guides.
Others channel their experiences into creative expression, writing, art, or music that resonates with deep emotional truths. Their life's purpose becomes intertwined with the lessons they endured, transforming pain into empowerment, confusion into clarity, and loss into love that transcends the personal realm. The empath's journey becomes a beacon for others who are navigating similar struggles, proving that even the darkest storms cannot extinguish the divine spark within. This radiance is not superficial. It is rooted in experience. The empath has faced the manipulation, deceit, and emotional turbulence of a narcissist and survived. Every challenge has forged resilience. Every betrayal has built wisdom, and every moment of self-doubt has been transformed into self-understanding. Spiritually, this process connects the empath to the divine source of unconditional love, demonstrating that true love is not dependent on the behavior of others. Their heart, once vulnerable and exploited, now embodies a form of love that is conscious, deliberate, and unbreakable. It is a love that heals, empowers, and uplifts, a force that cannot be destroyed by manipulation or abuse. Another remarkable aspect of the empath's transformation is the reclamation of boundaries. The energy that once siphoned away by the narcissist now belongs entirely to them. They recognize the importance of protecting their mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Where they once overextended themselves in service of others' illusions, they now prioritize alignment with their own truth. This discernment does not diminish their empathy, rather, it amplifies it. By honoring their own energy, they honor the energy of others. Their presence becomes a safe harbor for those who are authentic, a space where connection is real, meaningful, and mutually sustaining. The empath's light also becomes a form of subtle influence. Their calm in chaos, their clarity amidst confusion, and their unwavering sense of self resonate deeply with those around them. People are drawn to their energy not because of what they do, but because of who they have become. The empath becomes a living testament to resilience and spiritual strength. They show that it is possible to endure emotional storms without losing one's essence, to survive manipulation without surrendering one's soul, and to emerge from darkness with a heart that still shines brilliantly. Even the narcissist, who once thrived on draining the empath's energy, cannot dim this light. No amount of provocation, manipulation, or deceit can reach the frequency the empath now operates on. They are energetically untouchable, not through force or retaliation, but through alignment with their higher self. Their peace acts as a shield, their discernment as a compass, and their inner strength as an unbreakable foundation. Spiritually, this is the culmination of the empath's journey. The realization that their light is not dependent on external circumstances, but flows directly from their connection to the divine. The impact of this transformation ripples outward. The empath inspires others to reclaim their own power, teaching by example that sensitivity is not weakness, and that surviving abuse does not diminish one's essence. Their life becomes a living proof that divine love is eternal, that light cannot be destroyed, and that resilience, coupled with wisdom, creates a force capable of profound transformation. They embody the principle that every challenge, every heartbreak, and every moment of depletion can serve as a catalyst for awakening and growth.